Every bike mechanic has a plan. We scour Marketplace, we hunt for the perfect project, we map out every bolt, every upgrade, but what happens when the perfect plan gets completely derailed in the 11th hour? This brings us to my 1994 Bridgestone MB2, a beautiful stock machine decked out with a mix of Shimano XT and LX components. My goal? To transform this into the ultimate comfort cruiser for myself. A bike with ridiculous gear range and an upright riding position for endless miles of easy riding. But here's a kicker. This wasn't the bike I was supposed to be working on today. Just hours before hitting record, a different beast emerged from the depths of Facebook Marketplace, throwing a wrench, or should I say, a hammer of persuasion, into my carefully laid plans. And that means we're going to face some serious challenges. Parts shortages, unexpected headaches. Will we even be able to finish this build? Stick around to find out if this impulsive decision was a strike of genius or a colossal mistake. With the rear wheel liberated from the frame, our first real challenge presents itself. The stock 7-speed cassette on this 94 MB2 is perfectly fine for its era. But fine isn't what we're going for. We're chasing extreme. My vision for this bike includes a gear range so massive, it'll make climbing any hill feel like cruising downhill. And to achieve that, we're attempting something a little audacious. Here's where our spontaneous bike swap starts to bite us. The vast majority of older freehub bodies, like the one on this Bridgestone, simply aren't designed to accommodate the width of a modern 10-speed cassette. They're too narrow. This is where my build hits a wall. After some off-camera tinkering and a bit of hammer of persuasion to my own stubbornness, I found the sweet spot. It turns out by sacrificing the smallest cog and adding a spacer to the front of the cassette stack, we can actually get this 10-speed behemoth to fit. Using the original lock ring, everything snugged down perfectly, we've officially squeezed a modern wide-range cassette onto a vintage freehub. One hurdle down, and our dream of ridiculous gears is coming back on track. With our gearing dilemma solved, it's time to tackle the chain. This old 7-speed chain is not compatible with our new cassette. It's definitely not up to the task. And just like that, disaster strikes. My trusty chain tool, a veteran of countless bike projects, decides to call it quits. The pin just unscrewed itself. It seems our spontaneous build is determined to keep throwing curveballs at us. Even Charlie here is witnessing the trials and tribulations of an amateur bike mechanic. He looks concerned, but mostly he just wants to play fetch. But in the end, we're able to get the chain off. Alright, with the chain gone, it's time to remove the old 7-speed derailleur. I first cut the cables, then I use my Allen key to unscrew the connecting bolt. It's a similar story with the front derailleur. I disconnect the cable, but overdo it and completely unscrew the bolt that holds the cable in place. Luckily, I was able to find the bolt and the washer and reattach them to their proper place. Next, I loosen the bolt holding the derailleur to the seat tube, and finally, it's removed. This was supposed to be footage of me removing the drive side crank. Needless to say, I forgot to press record. For this build, I plan on going one by. Here's another place where this spontaneous build bites us in the rear. My original plan was to use this 30AT narrow-wide chainring, but these Derailleur LX cranks I have are 94 BCD. This chainring is 110 BCD. Time to order a new chainring. It's time to remove the old cockpit. These old 90 flat bars with profile pull-up bar ends aren't going to check any boxes in the comfort category, so they need to go. These integrated Shimano Derailleur LX shifters and brake levers need a bit of love to fix their sticky shifter syndrome, but I think I know the perfect home for them. Here we get our first look at these swept back handlebars I chose for this ride. They should provide a comfortable upright riding position. It's time to tidy up the last few items to make the teardown complete. Or, so I thought. I'll remove these straddle cables from both the rear and front cantilever brakes. With the teardown complete, it's time to give this thing a bath. It's not filthy, but rather dusty from sitting in the back of a garage for several years. It looks to have been well taken care of in the past. With the years of old dust washed away, it's time to start on a new drivetrain. If you haven't guessed, I'm reusing the drivetrain from my old Giant Talon mountain bike I worked on a few videos ago. Link in the description. I'm reusing the Avon X 10-speed rear derailleur, which is compatible with our large 52T cassette. Here, we get a good look at the star of the show. I love seeing that oversized cassette on the rear wheel. For those with a sharp eye, you can see that the rear wheel is wearing some new tan-walled shoes. This bike is really starting to come together. Remember when I said the teardown was complete? I'm gonna have to eat some crow here. It's the next morning, and overnight I was able to get a good look at the bike, and what I found kind of disappointed me. These RockShox Mag 21 forks, they're in desperate need of a good service. That's if you can find the parts. They no longer hold any air and are useless for this build. They have to go. So, I get to work and remove the stubborn crown race. This thing was stuck on there so tight. It took several tries and lots of pounding with a hammer of persuasion. But in the end, I was able to get it removed. This race must be somewhat undersized. I was having a difficult time getting it to seat properly on the new fork, so I decided to use science. I put the new fork in the freezer for several hours and ran the race through my ultrasonic cleaner with high heat. It was my hope that the race would expand and the fork would contract, making the installation possible. No luck. Luckily, I had a compatible race that would work. I used the same heat-cold trick, and this time the race was installed successfully. With the new replacement fork paired with the crown race, we can now get to work installing the new fork. I start by packing the cage bearings with a generous amount of grease and place them back in their home. I'll repeat the process for the second set of bearings. This is the star of this scene, a new rigid fork with a threaded steerer tube. I carefully slide the fork through the head tube and thread on the top bearing race. I make sure to snug it down, not too tight, not too loose, just right. I next install a stack of spacers. The tall steerer tube on this fork will help with the upright riding position. Lastly, I thread on the lock nut and use 2 wrenches to secure the top bearing race and tighten the lock nut. Alright, with the fork and headset installed and adjusted, it's time to install the stem along with those swept-back handlebars. With the stem slid inside the steerer tube, I turn the bolt that contracts the wedge that holds everything in place. I'm afraid that this is as far as I can go on this build. My hasty decision to swap bikes for this build has cost me precious time. While I await my parts to be delivered from Amazon, you may want to enjoy one of these videos. Be sure to like and subscribe for part 2.